Good afternoon. This is your girl, Stefania. Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday. Happy blessed Sunday. I hope everybody is having an amazing day. Today, we have such an amazing topic. For those of us that are in the East Coast that are dealing with this snowmageddon or whatever you want to call it, snow bob, cyclone, whatever, I hope you all are staying warm because it is frigid out. Even those that are in the the southeast, are getting some really cold weather. But if you're joining us today, I hope everything that we discuss today will warm your hearts and warm your homes because it is a topic that is, I want to say it's taboo. And here on the Sistership, we ensure that these topics are definitely discussed because a lot of people don't want to touch taboo topics. So with that said, what I'm going to first do is introduce everybody to our topic today, which is human trafficking. I'm not for sale. Now, again, a very taboo topic, but as the sistership always does every Sunday, we talk about everything that impacts our lives, our families' lives, our sistership. We also have a brothership because it's important for us to understand, know, be educated, as well as heal through any process that we're going through that we feel that we're not strong enough to work through. We can always work through everything as long as we have a support system to work through it. So with that said, I'm going to introduce our amazing guests today, those who are well-versed in this topic, who can give us a lot of great insights. I'm going to start with Lorna Claus. Hello, Lorna.
Hi, thank you for
How
having
are,
us.
absolutely. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
Great, great, great. We are so happy to have you on. And Alyssa, who's joining Lorna as well. Hello, Alyssa.
Hi,
How are you? Are you excited?
I am. Good, how are
Good,
you?
good, good. We're so happy to have you guys on board. And up to my right here, Jackie Wells. How are you, Jackie?
I'm well. Thank you. And it's my pleasure to be a part. It really is. I'm excited for what we are going to share today.
Absolutely. It is going to be an amazing discussion today. Just the pre-show was amazing. So I can just imagine the energy that's coming into this room today. And without further ado, I can't say nothing else without the healing and the love of our girl, Jane, Miss Spicy, as we call her, AKA Miss Spicy Teenager. We love you, Jane. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm so glad we are bringing this topic once again to the forefront. It's
Yeah.
very much needed, needs to be talked about all the time, all the time. So thank you for allowing me to be co-host here.
Absolutely. And we have a powerhouse. I say this because the individuals who we have here today, just so everyone in the audience, again, if you have any messages, any questions, comments, the chat room is open for that. We will make sure we'll bring things to the forefront to our hosts here, our guests, if there's anything that you want answered. It's a powerhouse in the room. And I say this because of the expertise that is being brought to you today and the sense of healing and the energy and the accountability and, you know, just making sure that we're all coming together and discussing this important topic. So when we think about human trafficking, and I always go back to historical because this subject, although the names and faces change all the time, this is something that has been pervasive for and been a part of history for us way before. I mean, it started with the slave trade days. Let's call it for what it is. The slave trade days, and then you're talking about parents who gave their young daughters to to the farm, the farmers and the men, and there was exchanges of goods and things of that nature. And here we are today in a totally different environment, socially, and with the age of social media and the internet and things of that nature, it's gotten only larger and larger from a scale perspective. I remember when I read some information in relation to human trafficking when I was doing my research, and it's the top Of
It's
the
gonna be
top two,
recorded.
it is number two of the most profitable industries, organizations out there, drug trafficking being first and human trafficking being second, sex trafficking. So to let people know, this is not just a US thing. This is a
Right.
worldly thing, right? This is global. So that's how huge of an impact this has to everyone. And if people think it's just about women or just about children, it is about everyone. It does children, much larger scale, but it is a huge, huge impact to everyone, all our families, all our ancestors, all our future children, sisters, brothers, and children. So, with that said, what I'd like to do is to kind of get us started. I think the biggest thing is the misconception of what human trafficking really is. What does it mean? And I would love to kind of just educate people because I think, again, there's this misconception of what they see on television or maybe in the news media that might not really cover everything in the scope of human trafficking. So, Lorna, can you help us understand, like, what are the elements of human trafficking? What does human trafficking really essentially mean for us?
Well, I can tell you, so what it's not is, well, not what it's not always is, it's not that white van that's pulling up on the street and abducting a child like the media likes to portray, right? It's a systematic undermining, focused of someone's self-esteem. It is, there's a grooming period where they're gaining that the young woman or young man's confidence, they're gaining their trust, and that's, that's huge. They focus on someone who's may not have what they need at home, so they may have, may not even have food on the table. They may not they may have they may live in a domestic violence household. They may live in a household where there's drugs and weapons, and they're looking for a way out. So, so someone is providing them that way out. And it's, like it's systematic. It's not just, it's very rarely is it just quick, happen quickly, and then another area that I think parents need to be aware of is the internet.
Mm.
You have to pay attention to whom your child is, talking with on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And I know earlier this year, I spoke to a parent who was dealing with exactly that. Their young daughter had been talking with someone, they didn't know it, and next thing they knew, she ran away. So they were on a quest to find her and to bring her home, and then and that happened. Then she ran away again. So it really is. I don't, unfortunately, the youngest we serve is, age 18. So I gave her some other resources to help her. So I hope and I pray that that family got the help that they need. But she was frantic. She was really frantic. She had no idea that this was happening in her home.
So to give everybody a perspective of, how you work with the, trafficked women, children, what have you, kind of give us your background on your organization, the organization you work for, and how you engage in this forum.
Sure. So Bloom for Women has been in existence for over 10 years. We have 4 homes. We have the 90-day emergency shelter, and then we have a 2-year recovery house, and we have 2 transitional homes.
Mm-hmm.
So we are contacted via our helpline or our office phone, and that's usually the first point of connection to a survivor. We have an intake procedure. We bring them into the home, and then from that point, we work with them to get them what they need to move on to whatever it is they want. It's about them. We give them back their choices,
Right.
but we provide safety. We provide stabilization. We are all trauma informed. We are not clinicians, though, but we do provide that care for them. They get medical care. We help them with getting their their Medicaid cards, their food stamps, their Social Security cards, driver's licenses, whatever that has been taken away from them, we do our best to help them get back to who they were and to heal. It's all about healing.
Mhm.
And Lorna, if you could share with the audience how long you provide a safe place for them to reevaluate and reconstruct their lives. How long are they able to stay there?
Well, we have a 90-day emergency shelter, safe house, but we don't kick anyone out after that 90-day mark.
Right.
Because for those 3 months, what we're doing is working with them. So if they're stable enough, they can move on to another program. And that's what we, and we have done that many a times. Some choose to leave on their own, and that happens too. And some move on to one of our other programs within our agency, or independent living or back home.
Mhm.
So
it's
you
all-
have different criterias in regard to whatever the need is for the person coming
Right.
in.
We're giving them back their lives, their voice. We're not telling them what to do. They get to decide for maybe the first time in a really long time.
Right. Right.
And we have Alyssa. Alyssa, tell us kind of your perspective, your experience with the organization and how you're engaged, just to give us a little bit of perspective and history on how you're engaged with the program.
Okay. Hi. I'm Alyssa. I went through Bloom. I have a really long history of prostitution, which ended up into trafficking, and I didn't know what to do with my life, and I didn't want to be where I was doing. I didn't want to be running in and out of people's cars and all these things I didn't want to do, but I didn't know where to go. I found Bloom through someone who was willing to give me a chance and vouch for me and say that I'm worthy. And I ended up now I'm the case manager for Bloom, and yeah, I see, and I'm in the stabilization shelter, so we see first
for you.
like these women
Yes.
coming in and don't know what to do, but really don't want to be doing what they're doing.
Go
Oh,
ahead.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, but initially it had to have been a hard step to take to reprogram yourself, I guess, that the life that you knew deep down inside you wanted to get out as it got worse, but yet it had to still be challenging for you to take that step to get to Bloom, right?
Everything that I had known was not what I was learning, and everything went against the grain. What I had was learning in Bloom, and I remember that so vividly that people were giving me rides and they weren't expecting anything from it. And I can't, yeah. So it was taboo, all these things that I thought in my heart. Really, honestly, I thought it was destined.
Now, how old were you when all of that started? How old were you when, you started to get into that phase of your life?
It wasn't teenager, a young teenager, very young teenager.
Okay.
Yeah. And I have to say, and I'm sure anybody who is listening in, you are worthy, that you are.
Yes.
Secondly, we thank you for being a part of this discussion, because it is a difficult discussion. I'm actually getting a little emotional because I could just imagine what you had to go through the experiences that you've had, and to come through that. And it just warms my heart to know that you have been able to get through it, and now you're pretty much advising other women or other people that are coming through this, or trying to find resources. So it makes my heart smile that you are where you are today, because there's not many people who put themselves in that position or put themselves out there or find that, and it's difficult. I'm sure it's difficult. Must have been difficult for you as you conveyed, because it is reprogramming, to what Jane said. The mindset that you had prior to coming into that, to Bloom, was totally different, right? And what people expected of you versus what they expect of you today, which is not really an expectation other than being better, right? And taking care of you. And you know, and that's just a blessing. It's just a blessing. So I commend you, and honored to have you on the show today, as well.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Jackie, you have a little bit of a different background, and backstory as it relates to this topic, and I would love for you to share kind of your backstory as it relates to this topic.
Absolutely. You know, as I listen to Lorna tell what her program does, we kind of correlate. Our work is in correlation, because I'm the person that intercepts and find these young ladies and come into contact with them to refer them to her program for that type of services. I am the founder and CEO of the JSPOT, and it's a community outreach program that was created to impact the lives of adolescents and young adults that experience trauma of this sort, and provide them with a safe haven, resources, and support. So I am that person that actually refers them to Lorna for that help. So it's extremely interesting to see how the correlation is, and we've never even had any contact with each other. But my background is similar to hers, with lots of training and background. I was prior law enforcement, and after law enforcement, I am now in the realm of intercepting runaways, missings, and trafficked young adults. And I use the young adult term because, as you mentioned, it's not only young ladies, that is males as well. So
Exactly.
we can't just say males. We have to, excuse me, females. We have to say young adults because it's males just as well.
Yes.
And to listen to Alyssa's story, there's so many of them out there that are feeling the same way she is. One of the biggest things is the vulnerability of what's going on at home, the lack of the love, the lack of attention. So many young ladies that I do come in contact with when I'm counseling them and I have conversations with them, one of the first things they say to me is, when I say, well, let's contact your mom and have a conversation with your mom, see what kind of services and support that we can get for you, they say, she don't care. She's with her boyfriend. She don't care. She don't care about me. Nobody cares about me. I'm on my own. I'm in the streets because I didn't get this attention at home. And one of the major things that we were discussing prior to the show is, these are familiar people in your lives that are trafficking these youth.
Right.
These are not strangers. These are not strangers that they're meeting. These are familiar people that have come across their life in some shape or form, whether it was a family member, whether it was a family friend that you go with, uncle or auntie, but these are familiar people that are targeting them because they know their home situation. They know what they're lacking. They know what it is they're needing. And you touched on the social media aspect. Let's be clear. The social media is they're meeting friends that are also recruiting them for their for their organization or group that they're being trafficked with. So it's the realm is very, very extreme, and this is a topic that needs to be heard, needs to be studied. Parents need to be aware and have these tough, courageous conversations. I call them courageous conversations with their children, with their young adults, about the people that they're coming in contact with, about the people who they think are their friends. If you don't know them, I always had a thing about my children with their friends. Be careful who you call your friend. Because you don't know everybody is not your friend.
Right.
And I'm sure, Alyssa, you thought a lot of people that were your friends when you were going through your process that you learned later, they were not your friend.
Yeah. Do you suppose, any of you, that the pandemic being, in lockdown, do you suppose that hindered or helped these people who recruit and try to get these women, men, and children on board? Do you think it helped or hindered?
It helped them. It didn't hinder them at all. It helped them.
Yeah.
The context,
Actually,
it gave
tell me
them
why.
the ability.
Why?
Because
Why?
it gave them the ability to have the access. Remember, they're home. It gave them access. It
Right.
gave them the ability to play with the mind, as we say, to say all the things that they needed. That, because remember, they're home, they're bored, they could have been home by themselves. You don't, like Lorna mentioned, you don't know what that situation is at home. So it gave them the ability to have more access to them.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, Jackie, because I actually was reading something about that, because I always think about pre-pandemic, post-pandemic as it relates to child abuse and, even in relationships abuse. I mean, you work with women all the time, Jane, in your area of focus as well. And, they always say we actually had more cases than during the pandemic than we did prior, because as the floodgates open and as you have social media and internet and family environments and things of that nature, now they have one-on-one access, whereas you don't have someone who can protect you in those forms, because it's a hidden jewel for them, right?
Right.
The traffickers.
Yeah.
And
I will share with you, because I'm a counselor for domestic violence, sexual assault victims, and an advocate. And it's interesting, in all the years I've been doing this, it hasn't been until maybe the last 2 years that I have certainly had more men than usual call me on the call, not me, but call the crisis line. And I've been doing this a while. So it is, it's an epidemic proportions. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, it has become an epidemic in of itself, really.
Absolutely.
When you think about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think once women and men, once people know how to navigate these like websites and all these ways on social media, it's just so accessible. It's so easily accessible.
Right. So I know when I, meet victims at the hospital or the police station or wherever, a lot of them will say they had accessibility to their abuser on the internet, through these dating sites. That's a big one. Would you agree, Alicia, with that?
Jane, I was about to say that to you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. These, back years ago, and Steph, I'm sure you recall, Lorna, you as well, and Jane, years ago, Backpage was a big thing.
Right.
Backpage with prostitution and things of that nature. Backpage is nothing compared to the availability of technology that they have now, with all these different rooms and stuff you can set up and go into, and you don't know who you're talking to. They're telling you that they're a child, but no, 9 times out of 10 they're not. So the access is more now, and parents are not watching and monitoring whom they're speaking to. And that's a major, major thing. You have to have these conversations. And it's just something as simple as, you started off with, how's your day type thing. Parents are not having these conversations. They're not engaging. They're not engaging at all. And that's where we need to get back to, because engaging, sometimes they'll tell you things when you didn't even realize, they don't even realize they told, because we have to listen to hear what they're saying and not listen to respond.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that, because I go to the school board meetings and, borough council meetings, and had an opportunity to speak to a mom. The subject matter was they were trying to take books out of the library, blah, blah, blah. But somehow we got on the subject. She has 3 daughters. All of them have a phone, but her middle daughter, she found, started to act peculiar. So she started tracking the phone and she didn't see anything weird. The youngest daughter confessed to the mom that every one of them have a second phone, which they bought at Walmart, where the parents cannot track.
See,
I was dumbfounded. I said, "Oh my gosh!" First, I guess I'm not smart enough to ever think of that. But parents do monitor the phones and the iPads, but you cannot monitor one of those tracking phones or whatever they call them at Walmart. And they all have them, and that's where they do the dirty work is on that phone. So they look pure on the good phone, and they're able to contact all of these strangers and stuff on that phone. I was flabbergasted. I
Yeah.
really, and it takes a lot for me to be speechless. And I was speechless when she told me that. Did
But
you
Jane,
encounter that? Oh, go
let me
ahead.
share with you also, Jane. It's not only another phone.
Mm.
Because of technology, again, their phones that their parents know about, they're able to go into different rooms and hide things on that phone that parents don't know how to access because we're not that savvy.
Oh, yeah.
They know
That's
how
Well,
to
that would be
block them.
me.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would be me. I
absolutely. They
have
know
no
how
idea.
to do that. So, yes, you're saying about them having another phone, but let me
Mhm.
assure you that the pictures and conversations are on those current phones. It's just that they know how to hide them because we're not that tech savvy. It's almost
Mhm.
like parents have to kind of go to learn how
The
to
class,
to
yeah,
right
Yeah.
to acclimate themselves with all the latest technology and how you know how you do things because these kids on top of it. We're not.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm sure that yes, there are some that have other phones, but there also are others that this stuff is on their phone. It's just they're hitting. But again, I still say it's the communication is the number one thing.
Yeah.
And I really think making them feel like and provide them with a level of comfort zone that they can share with you. A lot of
Mm.
times they would tell on themselves. It's just again listening, being that
Listening.
Right.
listening ear to pay
Mhm.
attention.
So I have a question for Alyssa. If you, looking back now, you're out of that whole scene and, you're now, God bless you, helping other women get through this. If you could give us two or three things that you now know they were doing to groom you to get you involved, what would that be? If you don't mind me asking. If I'm asking uncomfortable questions, just tell me. But I just thought, two or three of those top things that you feel the groomer did to you to get you involved. What would that be?
So I know what really was like it sold me was like the promise of like stability and like housing, and I would never be sick. I was also on drugs, but I would never be sick. I would be like taken care of. I would always be I'd have a family.
Mhm.
Mm.
They told me I already did it for like when you're like running the streets, when you're walking the streets, you're doing it for a little bit, and he's promising me that I could do it for more, and that those are the things, taking care of me, anything I needed, the attention.
Mhm.
It was attention. Yeah, those I don't know if that was three, but it was
No, I
good
no,
vibe.
I just want, if anyone is, listening that might be falling
Right.
into that kind of trap, I just wanted them to be aware that there are, and those are pretty constant things, I would think, for a groomer, and I call them a groomer because that's basically what they do,
They
right? They
are.
groom
Yep.
you into getting into this life. And I just want them to be aware if they're experiencing that maybe they need to reach out to someone for help.
Yeah.
I know I was super vulnerable and naive well before I met the man I met.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. Here,
And,
guys.
It's
yeah.
that security, sense of security, stability,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
home, feeling that you have a home, right? Feeling that you have someone who's going to take care of you. And those are the things that, again, any manipulator will do to, to say to keep that control, right? Because that's a control element, as we all know, even in
Absolutely.
any type of abusive relationship. Those
Absolutely.
are control elements. Um,
And alienation too, right? I mean,
yeah.
they alienate you from
Mhm.
all
Yeah.
the people that they know can make you realize this isn't a good life that you're about to enter. I know, I see it with my my domestic violence victims. They're very manipulated. They feel like they can't breathe without their abuser. I mean, they absolutely manipulate your brain. Um,
And
and think about it. If you're, like the old saying goes, if you're told you're stupid, you're stupid, you're stupid every day, you believe you're stupid, and
Yes.
yeah, it's definitely, they can get a control of your mind.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Same
Alyssa, if I
concept.
may, because we spoke about this, can you also share with our listeners that it's not about the money? Because people get the misconception that it's about the money that you're making, that it's not about the money. Can you share that it's more the level of comfort and that family, that love and attention, and that the money is the last, like that's a minor thing to you?
Absolutely. It was, the money was like, it was going to be there, but it was the comfort of knowing that I had a whole family that knew they were going to take care of me. And it was the empowering. I felt empowered, and I was very much taught to feel empowered for the choices that I made as an escort, as whatever you want to call it, as like, and there's just were not true. I was really sold like a fairy tale, and it
Yeah.
really, it
And
felt
was
real.
it? And was it a fairy tale? As you got deeper into it, I mean, what made you realize, oh my gosh, this is not what they what prompted you to say, I've got to get out of this now? Or I mean, I've had women say, if I don't get out of this situation, I'm going to die. They're going to kill me. I'm going to die.
Yeah.
Were you to that point, Alyssa, or?
Um, I got so tired of my life being um, um a date. So tired of being in the cars with the men. I was so tired of the life. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Getting arrested and stuff really just enlightened, and I was aware what it was,
right.
but I was sick. I was sick and tired.
Hmm.
I've been in and out of these places so many times, of these
Yeah,
treatments,
yeah.
of these, yeah, of these.
Can I ask, Alyssa? So we talk about listening to your intuition, right? And I think this is important for people to really respond to their intuition, not just think about listen, but respond to it. When you were involved with the trafficker, was there something in your intuition that said this is not right, but who knows, maybe? And I know you said, this is that they promised X, Y, and Z, right? That home and that security and whatever have you. But was there something egging you at that point when you got involved with the trafficker to say, just a thought that said, you know what, maybe not, but you know what, I'm going to try it out? What were your thoughts initially when you got involved?
Um, well, I was convinced
Yeah,
that I was convinced that that was my life. So I can't say that I had a moment where it was like, this is bad. Like, because
yeah,
nothing was as bad as
yeah.
X, Y, and
What?
Z when you know.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think, and I mean that's good to know, because then I think for people who we always say, and I know there was some comments in regard to listen to your intuition. Some of us don't. Some of us are just at a point where we just feel that okay, it might be wrong, but you know what, I'm going to try it because what they're selling is this bill of goods that will help me be what I want. What they say I'm going to be, right?
Mhm.
In essence, you're helping them more so than they're helping you. I was listening to just how to identify these traffickers, and they say traffickers usually identify and exploit specific vulnerabilities of their victims, which can include pre-existing psychological trauma, drug dependency, as you mentioned, disabilities, homelessness, dislocation, and isolation. And man, everything that I've heard is exactly what that represented, right?
They
From
prey on
how
it.
they
They prey.
manipulate.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I guess my other question is how, I mean, we all know this, like we know this is such a huge issue. I was reading something that said that there's like they were expecting, and this was probably 2019 into 2020, they were expecting 24 point, an estimated Department of State's estimated, and this is just the US, 24.9 million adults and children are trapped in some form of human trafficking world. 24.9. Now, mind you, we're talking 2020. The expectation was, the estimate was going to roll into where in 2020. Who knows what that is now in 2021, because some of the statistics are still kind of rolling in based on calls into the human trafficking call centers and things of that nature. You know, and I know we're all in the Pennsylvania area, correct? Everyone's in the Pennsylvania area. So I was reading something, actually, I was talking to Lorna about this the other day, that Pennsylvania happened to be number 9, and this was some news outlet, had mentioned that in December of 2021. They mentioned how Pennsylvania happens to be number 9 in human trafficking cases. Number 9, top 10.
Yep.
It's, you know, and I only focus on Pennsylvania only because we live here, but obviously the other states are, you know, having this issue. It's very pervasive. In the state of Pennsylvania, what are some of the things, do you know what are some of the things that is happening from, I don't know if it's a legislature thing or, you know, is there anything happening to help us with managing through, other than the services that you're providing? You know, we talk about the access to the internet. We talk about access to phones. We talk about, now granted, there's conversations that need to be had at home, right? Only a parent can do that, can manage those discussions. But how about all the other resources that are available out there that are allowing these traffickers access to our children, to our men and our women who are being put in this lifestyle or pulled into this lifestyle? Do you know of anything that's being done within legislature or, you know, within the state that's helping with this? No.
I think Lorna and I both are shaking our heads together.
Wow. Wow.
I wish I could say yes. I wish I could say yes.
And that makes me so sad. It really does. It makes me so sad. But if I can
say, and I think, Lorna, you would agree, what really needs to happen is, yes, there are certain things that need to happen at home, but there are more resources that need to be available to the youth so that they can learn and be educated in this type of stuff. That's the major thing that needs to happen. The availability of resources for not only this topic, but the resources available to them for them to be able to hear about what is going on. That these friends, these conversations, those courageous conversations that we talk about, that sometimes the parents can't have, that, you know, some type of organizations and workshops and seminars and things of that nature available to the youth so that they can hear these things, because sometimes they need to just hear what's going on. Have these conversations, because I'm sure that wasn't available to you, Alyssa, and you didn't have anybody telling you that what you were doing was wrong.
Yeah. You made such a great point, and I was thinking about that as we were kind of talking about this, is that the resources available, right? What resources, other than what you two are doing, and I'm sure there's other organizations as well.
Absolutely.
You know, maybe our churches are, just who exactly, I mean, this is number 2 in the country, up against drug trafficking. Like, there's so much money that's being funneled into this area that it just baffles my mind that we don't talk enough about it. We don't educate enough about it.
Yes.
Because there's people who, I hate to say it, the fact that this is where it is, let's just be honest. The fact of the matter is, the reason why it's such high on the radar as far as profitability is because there are individuals who don't want to talk about it, because it will take money out of that industry. It just will.
Absolutely.
And to your point, parents need to hear that.
Yes.
Our churches, our just everybody in our community that comes together need to hear that, and need to hear it all the time, because we can talk about it in January, right? Because this happens to be the awareness month for human trafficking and slave industry. But we need to be talking about this. It needs to be in their face 24/7. As much as it's affecting those who are actually 24.9 million estimated to be in a human trafficking scenario today, That's how much we need to make a stand against this and need to be vocal about it. And I'm getting passionate about it because it really bothers me that I can't believe how big of a deal this is, and we're not talking enough about it. There's so
Right.
much focus on everything else, right?
So I quickly went into PCAR, which is a organization that actually is a part of Women's Resources of Monroe County. There is the Title 22, Chapter 78, that does protect victims from trafficking. But here's the thing, and you can disagree with me or agree with me, but I'm going to say it anyway. Here's the thing. You can have as many laws as you want, but if they are not implemented,
Yes.
if they are not used,
Yes.
if you do not hold your state representatives, your congresspeople, your government feet to the fire to make sure these laws are implemented, it doesn't matter what kind of laws are on the book. My point is this: if you feel, passionate and strong about making sure that laws are in place that are going to be used and used correctly, and I don't give a damn who you are or what nationality, what kind of economical background you come from. If these laws are not put in place and used, they're just going to lay there.
Yeah.
They are there.
Yep.
And you must make sure your representatives of your community, your state, your federal government hear your voice. I'm serious. Look, I have been, in this thing a long time. I burnt my bra, okay, back in the 60s. So there's that. All right. And listen, I still hate to wear a bra, but I didn't burn it for that reason. I burnt it because it made a statement about equal rights for women. And I am a big advocate of that. And believe it or not, I married an old fashioned Sicilian that would just roll his eyes at me and go, "Oh my God, she's at it again," kind of thing. But I have marched since the 60s for human rights, for civil rights, for women's rights, for a woman's right to choose. And like I said, if you don't continue to have these conversations, if you don't continue to bring these topics to the forefront, no one's going to give a damn. So we've got to be loud and we've got to be heard. And you can do it without shooting a gun, without calling people names. It can be done. It can be done. And proudly, I say, I was at the Women's March in 2020, or was it? No, what was it, 2019? Oh my God, I'm really getting old, but I can't remember.
The Women's March in DC, yes.
Yes, I was there. And I can tell you, when I came back, I didn't want to leave. There were thousands and thousands of women and men there.
Yes.
Okay. And that's why I'm saying we cannot go backwards on anything. The more push they give us, the more pushback we must give them. And by doing these kinds of shows, by making sure voices like Alyssa's are heard, and the things that Bloom does and Women's Resources does are definitely known, that they are accessible, is the way to navigate through this society where women like Alyssa may have one time felt that no one cared. And that is not true. There's thousands of us that care.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, I'm done preaching.
Lord.
No,
Amen. It's Sunday, so amen today.
That was excellent. That was excellent, because it's a fact. We can't, we can have these discussions all day, but again, the reality is this: we have to create a platform of resources where this information, like Steph said, is continuously being put out there.
Yes.
Because there's no after school programs or anything that goes on where the children get together and there's conversations about what's going on in the world today, besides sex trafficking. I mean, there's other things, domestic violence, rape.
Exactly.
I mean,
sexual assault. I mean, the list is endless.
They are They are what we call in danger of being exploited, period.
Yes. Yes.
Period.
Do you
Yeah.
It
think
needs to
that?
be in the schools. The schools
Yeah.
don't want to discuss
Yes.
it. It needs
Yes.
to be in the schools. They
Yes.
need
Yes.
to allow groups, organizations, individuals to
Mhm.
come in and have these conversations in
Yes.
the schools.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's
You're
something
I
that we
right.
agree.
can control.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's actually a good point, because I agree with you. I think the
Mhm.
missing link here, or one of the missing links, because there's plenty of them, is that getting to children early on. And I
Yes.
know it's hard for a parent. We have so much that's bad in the world, but so much that's good in the world as well. And unfortunately, the bad overpowers, and they're afraid of having conversations because they don't want to scare their children
Mhm.
about life, about going out the doors.
Right.
But I think it's
Mhm.
not about scaring them. It's about
Nope.
educating. And there's such a big
Yes.
difference between scaring someone and educating someone.
Yes.
Education is power.
Absolutely.
Power. There's no, I mean, scaring someone is just using this to control someone. But if
Right.
you're educated, you are powerful. If you have the ability to understand what's going on and how you can manage through, right? Whether it's resources available or discussions that you're having and engaging people or whatever the case may, you are powerful in the intent of giving people or allowing people to be empowered, right? Because now
Mhm.
you're giving them the knowledge. What they do with that is obviously that's their step forward,
Absolutely.
right?
Right.
They're empowered to do as they wish. But the education is key. And we talk about schools, and there's so much in these school systems that they're taking services away. And then there's the COVID thing, and in school, out of school, whatever have you. But these programs, I feel there's programs that are missing that are impacting our children and adults, but it starts from the young age, right?
Yes. Yep.
Alyssa, you talked about, your a little bit about your history and what you felt when this person offered, to make you feel safe, and
Stability. Yeah. There was some.
stability and whatever
Yeah. Mhm.
security.
Yeah.
That had to start from a young age of not getting that. But had you been educated and
So
informed,
that when the conversation comes in,
right?
it's an uncomfortable feeling when it's said
Yes,
to you, and they're
right,
able to acknowledge that something's
Right.
not right about what's being said.
right, right.
Right.
I went to Far Rockaway. I was invited to Far Rockaway to speak on this topic to students and parents from a church one evening. I live here in PA. Why is it that I have to be invited to Far Rockaway by the
Yes,
mayor to speak on this topic, and never once had the opportunity to speak on this topic here in Monroe County where I live?
Mhm.
That's a
Mhm.
problem.
Yes.
Mm.
I could tell
That's a
you on behalf of Women's Resources, before the pandemic, we were in the junior highs, and we were talking about, I mean, we approached it so that the kids would understand as a bullying. And then it just kind of filters into, personal space, and you don't hit, and you don't, there's verbal abuse, there's all kinds of, and so we were able to get into the schools, the junior highs, the high schools. I cannot tell you how many students came to our table afterwards. When we have
Absolutely.
tables at the racetrack, I mean, it's phenomenal to me how many people come up and say, my neighbor is, I know she's being abused, or I know something's happening with the kids, and so on and so on. If you open the door, if you make it safe, people will come and tell you exactly what's going on. Listen, I've stopped women in the grocery store that I've seen, finger marks around their neck. And I've said to them, take this card. You are not alone. That's what people need to know, Alyssa.
Yeah.
You must have felt alone. You are not alone, people out there that feel you're in a bad situation. There are so many of us that are there to lend you a helping hand. Really.
I think it also, and I agree with you, Jane, and I think the other piece is trust. I think it's hard for people to
Mhm.
trust,
That's
right?
right.
Because especially when you're in an environment that you're vulnerable and you've been told X, Y, and Z, it's hard to trust again, because you don't know. Back to
Right.
Alyssa, you know, retraining yourself to know that just because you got in a car and someone was giving you a ride, there wasn't an expectation attached to that, right?
Right.
Transaction.
Yeah.
It was for the good of, you know, giving you what you needed.
Mhm.
And it's so hard. Alyssa, how long did it take you to trust again, to feel comfortable again, once you kind of got out of your situation? What did it take for you to really feel secure? Do you feel secure now? And if so, how long did it take you to get to that point, where you felt comfortable enough to say, I've got the right support system in place, and you know, I feel good about where I am?
I think it took me a very, very long time. So I know that I and I know many women who even come through to the shelter. They know they've fallen through the cracks, like for
Mhm.
very long time. Why would they trust us? And I
Yeah.
felt that way so many times when I went to shelters and all these places. And so, yeah, I over time, like once I was completely like, I gave up. I trusted, I just
Surrendered.
trusted, I surrendered. Yeah, I surrendered and trusted a community who kind of thought I was a little like crazy looking, but like all I knew was I didn't want to do what I wanted to do. And they were like, okay, we'll work. So
Yeah.
that I trusted that like they trusted that that's like what I wanted. And I
Mm-hmm.
slowly but surely I trusted them with my life, to be honest. And like I
Mhm.
said,
And how are you able to help other women that are in that situation like you? What is the first steps you do to try to make them feel safe as well, or trust as well?
ooh, we do a lot. I
Yeah.
mean,
Mhm.
the first 2 weeks to like a month, they kind of rest and hang out with us, and we figure out where they came from, what we hear them, we listen to them.
Listen, active listening
Yeah.
and empathy.
And just letting them know, like, I hear you, and I
Mhm.
know how it is. I hear you.
And no judgment, right?
Absolutely.
That's a
No
big
judgment.
thing, even with
Yeah.
abused women. We don't, there's no judgment
No.
here,
Yes.
Yeah.
And slowly it becomes that they want to confine to us, or maybe they don't. Like we meet them
Mhm.
where they're at.
Yes.
Right.
Meet them
Right.
where they are.
Good.
That's
That
important.
is oh my God, that's well
Meet them
said.
where they are.
Listen, you meet
Excellent.
them where they are.
Excellent.
Yeah. Well said. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
because I think when you force things on people, it just again they're very guarded, right? It's not, I'm not ready, I'm not willing at this point, or whatever
And
have
they
you.
resent it.
And they resent it, and
Yeah,
they
they
push
get
away.
resentful. Yeah.
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 And you want to bring
Alyssa,
people in, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
and
Go ahead,
Alyssa is
Jack.
at an advantage. She's at an advantage because she's been there.
Yeah.
So they
Mhm.
get to see her in a
Mhm.
position of power to them to see that, okay, she did this. So she's not just talking. It's not like Lorna or you or I telling her, I know where you've been. No, we don't.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
Yeah.
Alyssa can say to them, I know where you've been. I was there.
Right.
Right.
And that alone builds a level of trust for them to be comfortable to start breaking at that wall and letting their guard down. And I'm sure you have a lot of conversations, Alyssa, that's not involved, doesn't have anything to do with like off the record type conversations, to put them in a comfort zone. I trust
Mhm.
me, I know. To
Yeah.
put them in a
Yep.
comfort zone, and they say, like, how did you do it? Like, them asking you, like, how did you do it? And you're able to share with them that it wasn't easy, that you had to go
Mhm.
through the process. And
Right.
I'm sure that helps.
Yeah. Well, you are, as far as I'm concerned, Alyssa, you are courageous human being. And Bloom, Lorna, is just, it's a godsend. And I know, I know that Carol,
Yes.
yeah, is just a phenomenal person. I mean, as a matter of fact, I worked with her at Women's Resources, and then she went and started Bloom. But the program in of itself is a godsend to the community. It truly is. Truly, truly is. It's a wonderful program. I've heard a lot of the ladies speak at the church in Mount Bethel. Just always brings me to tears. But the work is challenging, but it's well worth it. You know, I mean, you're saving human beings. And what better way to do God's work than that, right?
Absolutely. And thank you very much. But we couldn't do it without all of people like you, right? So other organizations, other people in the community who want to help,
Mm-hmm.
first and foremost, are willing to listen and believe that this is happening.
Yes.
Because I get that pushback all the time, like, it's not happening in Lehigh Valley.
Ah,
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
whoa, wait.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have a lot of education to do. We have a lot of awareness to bring to people. But like I said, without like platforms like this,
Mm-hmm.
it it's going to make a difference. I'm
Yeah.
certain of it, right? Someone's going to hear
Excellent.
something that hadn't known and hear something that they didn't know before, and they may make a different decision for themselves or for someone else that they know or they love.
Mhm.
Yeah, I go to borough meetings. So about 5 years ago, I went to I'm not going to mention the borough, but I went to a meeting, and they were trying to get, this might sound ridiculous, but more lighting in parking lots. And several of the gentlemen on the board said, I don't know why you want to go through that expense. We have no crime here. I nearly jumped out of my seat. I mean, and I'm a little Italian woman that I was like, what, are you freaking kidding me? And I was like, bang, 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 watch your language, blah, 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 I was like, we live in a college town. Are you joking? Really? I mean, but they were so sure that there was no crime that went on here. And remember, we are centrally located to Philadelphia and New York City.
Main thoroughfares.
Main thoroughfares, exactly right. So, even with that said, I still wanted to just jump up and shake them and go, where, what are you thinking? No crime here. And I got involved with VAST. It's Valley Against Sex Trafficking at the Lehigh Valley. And that's how it was so strange, because then I met Carol, and then, I had been working for Women's Resources, and then all of the Bloom thing came, and I started going to the same church, and who pops up? Carol Anderson again. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm meant to be with this woman. I know I'm meant to do something with her, but again, the program is just phenomenal there that you guys have created, and so many success stories have come out of. And I feel the same way about Women's Resources. Statistically, victims of domestic violence, it takes them 7 times usually to say, I've had enough. Unfortunately, sometimes through that process, they do lose their lives. Okay. Not, I mean, I can't really talk about that, but the thing is, as long as we do what we're doing and we continue to do this, there's hope, right? There's hope out there for women, men, and children to hear what we're saying, and
You actually made a good point, Jane. And you talked about 7 times for, a woman or whoever's in a domestic violence situation. I guess my question, Lorna and Alyssa, for you is, what do you see within Bloom as far as those who come to the program? Like, is it first one and done? I know that some people, it takes some time, or they leave and come back, or what have you. What is is it one time? Is it twice? Like, what are you averaging as far as people coming in and out of the program?
We have women that come in and out of our program, but we don't follow them once they leave.
Okay.
So we don't necessarily know if maybe they do go someplace safe for a while and then do go back, or their life goes differently. I really honestly can't answer that question.
Steph, I can.
Go ahead.
So
Jackie.
my program that I ran with the group homes, that yes, you are correct. It takes multiple times, because they will come to the program. They would come to the program. They would be in the program for months, starting to acclimate themselves to life. And what happens is, and I'm not sure about your program, Lorna, but do you take away access to social media so that they cannot, that they cannot link back up with their predators?
In the
Is
safe
that
house, yeah. Yes.
yes? So
Mhm.
yeah, so long that time that they're not having contact, they're fine. They're
Mhm.
starting trying to acclimate, trying to get themselves back together. But then as other people they come in contact with that have, and they're like, oh, let me use your phone. Oh, let me. Soon as
Mm.
they get that
Mhm.
one connection, that one connection, it's they go right back. It goes full circle. They're right back again. So
Mm.
it's, I mean, literally, you say domestic violence is 7 times, Jane. I would say probably 4 or 5 or 6 times as well. It depends
Yeah,
on the person, though. It
right.
Yeah.
depends on the person.
Yeah.
They have
Yeah.
to
The
want.
statistics are, yeah, it's
Yes,
staggering. It's
yes,
staggering sometimes. Yeah. Hmm.
yes. But
Yeah. And
they're
they have to
fine as
want it.
long as there's no communication. They're fine.
Yeah.
But as
Hmm.
soon as that 1 ounce of communication that they're
Yeah.
back to the world of communicating, that's it.
Hmm.
Or if the
The-
children are involved, if
Yeah.
they have young children that they've left behind,
Right.
or,
yes.
and now the abuser's family is raising them because he's in jail or whatever, then there's all of that um, trauma that they deal with as well,
Hmm.
and there's so many different components to it that
Hmm.
I think people don't really, you don't just walk away,
Yeah.
because you walk away with a life that you were so comfortable with, a
Hmm.
life that you knew. I've had victims say to me, I just feel like I can't breathe without him,
Mm.
because they've been so programmed to believe that.
Hmm.
And it's hard. It's no different than trying to kick alcoholism or drug abuse or
Absolutely.
overeating or anorexia. It's all it's
An
all
addiction.
an
An
addiction.
addiction. Yeah.
An
Yeah.
An
addiction.
imbalance, a chemical imbalance, an
Yeah.
addiction, whatever. It's
Yeah.
almost like having Stockholm syndrome, right? You
Yes.
know,
It is.
you
Yeah.
That's
know
Correct.
it's
exactly
a
what it
bad
is.
situation,
Yeah.
but you're so used to it that your fear of what's without that person, what is
Mhm.
there without that person?
Right.
And
Right.
I
And
think
that's what they move on.
I think your idea of like safe and healthy people
Hmm.
also, it doesn't change once you're here.
Yeah.
Well, I
Mhm.
mean, without like therapy,
Right. Support.
honestly, a
Yes.
lot of
Right.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know what? I have. Oh, well, from a big Italian family, so most of them could probably use a lot of therapy and don't think they need it. But, and with that said, but yeah, therapy is good. But I know for me, I came from a very abusive home. For me, it was the group therapy that helped me the most,
Mm.
because I was able to identify that I'm not alone in this world. I'm not the only one that saw what I saw in my house. I'm not the only one that things happen to, and these violent gestures. I wasn't the only one, and it made me feel like a part of a community that has been forgotten. I really do feel sometimes that community is, looked down upon. Community of people like me that came from abusive homes, or
Mm.
whatever. So I felt for myself that the support groups, I really enjoyed them and learned more from them than I did from my one-on-one therapist, because I was able to identify, and I felt very comfortable, telling them the things that happened to me. And then, two people sitting down from you would go, "Oh my God, that happened to me too." And you're like, "Really?" You're amazed at it, because you think it's only you, you know, you think it's only you. And it's, like I said, it's an epidemic when
Yeah.
you really think about the numbers of
Yeah.
victims, right? It's epidemic portions.
And there's
Absolutely.
power in numbers, right?
In
There's power
numbers.
in numbers.
Strength.
Mhm.
Strength in
Strength
numbers.
in
Strength in
exactly
numbers.
strength in numbers. So to your point, Jane, I agree. I mean, I think of Alyssa and the what she gives to survivors,
Mhm.
and again, having a network of survivors who can help others, because that's the one thing I think we all see as well, right? Oh, you don't know it. Kids say it all the time to parents, right? You don't know what you're talking about. I know what
Right.
I'm doing, because they think they know better than their parents, and we've probably been
Absolutely.
through it. But when you speak about situations where you can truly identify with someone who's been through it, it's even a stronger um, sense of just having somebody that went through it, and that you can rely on them or you can lean on them because they've been through it as well.
Like
So I
minded.
think those experiences are so, and I hate to say that you need that, but you need that because
do.
if you don't
Yes, you
experience
do.
it, right, Alyssa? I mean, you can speak to that. I mean, it was probably important for you to have someone who was experienced in what you went through.
Yeah, and I think seeing people and leading by example, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people I looked at, even if you hadn't been exactly what I've been through, I looked at you making important phone calls, and I looked at you doing important things that you had to do, and I thought, why can't I? And I had hope in my, because I was surrounded by people who were hopeful for me, right?
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
love that. Hope.
I like
I
that
love
too.
that.
Change of mindset. It's a change of
Yeah.
mindset.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's a total change of mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I want to just quickly go back because there was a comment made in regards to just where you would find these, traffickers or these people that, try to manipulate and pull people in. And it's, there's, we talk about bus stops, we talk about train stations, schools, strip clubs, casinos, group homes, truck stops, social media networks, escort websites. They're everywhere. They're everywhere in your own communities. And, I think about Pennsylvania, like, I lived in Jersey, so we really didn't have buses going to school. But we still have here, for instance, being number 9 now in human trafficking cases. A lot of children are at bus stops in their communities or outside their communities. Parents will drop them off, and you don't realize there's neighbors. You don't know who you don't know.
Yeah.
And, you have to be cognizant. We have truck stops all along here in our
On
major
Red
areas,
Lady. Yeah.
right? I
Mhm.
mean,
Yeah.
80 and 95 and, wherever. I mean, it's all over the place. And, it's these things. And, I hear, and I was actually telling Lorna, we have parents, we have our community page. And, you'll have people post things that they see, it's almost like a neighborhood watch. Oh, I saw, to your point, Lorna, this van come by the house, or, a car came over, and, they saw through their camera someone getting out of the vehicle. They had 2 children in the front yard playing, and the person got out of the vehicle, and she came running out of the house because she saw someone she didn't know. We don't have sidewalks. People
Mhm.
just can roll up and down the street. So it's again, it's just being cognizant of your surroundings,
That's right.
being aware of the people in your surroundings, family or friends, because those are the easier access to this industry, right? Having easier access. And it doesn't have to actually be the person who is the predator. It could be someone they know, right? And
Right.
that's how kind of, who they're engaged with or entangled with. But I think, again, going back to education, and I think Mama C's been in the chat room, and a bunch of others, Jackie, Joan, Trish. I mean, thank you everyone for joining. It's just been a wonderful conversation, and we definitely are going to keep talking. But I wanted to, there was a comment she made in regards to, okay, education plus wisdom plus action equals self-empowerment. I love that statement because it's not just about educating. It's having the wisdom. It's putting things into action to be self-empowered.
Right.
What are your thoughts about that, Lorna, Alyssa, or even Jackie?
Alyssa, you want to go first?
Okay, so education, wisdom. I wish there
And
was more
action. You're
education.
doing it. You're
Yeah.
doing it, Alyssa. You're doing
But
it.
like I feel like I had been at risk for a very long time before anything actually truly happened. I wish I was educated and wiser. I wish somebody went up to me and was like, "Hey, this could happen to you."
Right.
Like take that
Right.
seriously. And yeah, just that's where I go with that. I don't.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, you actually
Even
brought
at
up
a
a
young
good point.
age, right? Even at a younger age,
Yeah.
we should be talking about this subject
Hmm.
at
Yeah.
a young age. Yeah. About personal space. And, I always tell my granddaughters, this is your body. You don't let if you're uncomfortable, you need to tell someone. Don't, this is your space. Don't let anybody pass there. Yeah, I'm constantly doing it. And my daughter-in-law too, just, we're very proactive with that.
Hmm. Jackie, your
So
thoughts?
yeah, so in my discussions, in my workshop seminars that I do with the parents and children, the youth, I share with them that basically what we just said, educating them on the importance of having no topic being off limits.
Mm.
That's a major thing, having no topic be off limits, because we start feeling like, oh, I can't talk about that. No, there has to be no topic that's off limits. And then you speak to them in a manner that, like Alyssa said, meet them where they are. So depending on what their age is how you determine you have that conversation. If they're younger versus someone that's older, you meet them where they are. And then you use your wisdom your knowledge of it to share with them, and then that would empower them. Because I have to speak to what you said, Steph, believe it or not, the truck stop right here on 611. Yeah,
611.
definitely.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
met girls there, I've picked them up there, I've had conversations with it, so it's here. So whoever wants
Yeah.
to believe that it's not, sorry, it's here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
No,
definitely
you're
here.
right. Absolutely
Yeah.
right.
No, it's here.
It's
Absolutely right.
definitely here. But the major thing to address all those things that Mama C said is the education, the wisdom, the action, and that's what equals the self-empowerment for our youth. But it
Mhm.
has to be, again, it has to be across the board, not just at home, because
Yeah.
they don't relate as well at home. It needs to
Yeah.
be in the schools. It needs to be in the YMC, the after school programs
Mhm.
that we have. There
Yeah.
needs to be, family programs and
In the
stuff that
churches. It needs to be in the
absolutely in
church.
the
Yeah.
churches. A
Mhm.
Saturday
Yep.
afternoon, couple of hours get together and have these um courageous conversations about
Mm.
what's going on today.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because, like Alyssa said, if someone had been saying that to her, she might have thought differently. Like-minded people, making sure
Yes.
that they are hearing from like-minded people, sharing the information, and ultimately at the end, again, nothing being off limits. That's my take.
Mhm.
We
No
live in a
matter how
very
uncomfortable.
siloed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. No matter how uncomfortable. Yep.
We live in a
Absolutely.
very siloed environment. As much as we have communication that's out there and we share things on Facebook and things, we live in a very siloed environment. It's not,
Mhm.
I
Absolutely.
don't see it like it used to be, when we protected each other, had our, grandmothers or, neighbors that were watching over. And, we're actually going to be talking about that on the Sistership next month. But, it's a village mentality, right?
Mhm.
And we're missing that. And I
Yes.
know that the reason being is, we have all these reasons, right? Women went to work, they're working longer hours, two-parent households, one-parent households. We can say everything that we want to say, but things change in life, things change in society. We have to evolve with the changes.
Absolutely.
Conversations and education and et cetera and so on. We don't evolve with what's changing. Things are changing so fast. We don't evolve with it.
Right.
Right.
And it's really putting us at a disadvantage because, to your point, there has to be this constant common theme discussion in every environment that a child is in. It just cannot be at home. That
Right.
relatability is not there if it's not a very open environment that they're comfortable in. So you
Yep.
have to go to the schools. Whatever the parents are saying, it has to be consistent in the school. It has to be consistent in the church. It has to be consistent in after school programs and so on and so on and so forth. So I agree with you. I mean, it's definitely an opportunity, um, that I think people need to take charge of, I mean, in
Yes.
their own, in their own families. I mean, maybe they need to be sitting and not just having conversation with their children, but going to the school board meetings and saying, hey
Right.
guys, I know we have all these other things going on, but why aren't we having real candid conversations, structured candid
Mhm.
conversations about this to help our children make sure that they're educated and they are empowered and that they feel strong in their convictions and being able to avoid these situations. And as soon as
Yeah.
they run home, they can say, Mom, I had someone, or my best
Mhm.
friend's parent, or
Absolutely.
And
whomever.
they have to be
Okay.
believed. They have to be
Absolutely.
believed. They
Right.
cannot, it
Absolutely.
cannot be shoved. Oh, you're exaggerating, or, oh, can't believe they would do that. You must believe. Even if you don't believe it for the moment, you must investigate it on
Yeah,
the behalf of your child to be an advocate for them. You
absolutely.
have to believe what they're saying and investigate it.
Hmm.
You
Absolutely.
just can't poo-poo it anymore. It can't be done. Can't do it anymore. Listen, when my father would beat my mother years and years ago, of course, I always call the police. The police would come. They'd take him outside. They give him a cigarette. They give him a shot of whiskey, and they'd come in and say to my
Mm.
mother, "Just try not to aggravate him." As she sat there with a bloody nose or whatever.
Mm.
And I was always the one, I'd hit him with a pot or break a broom over his back or whatever. And it wasn't until years and years and years later, after my mother died, he said to me, "I was afraid of you." And I said, "Well, don't ever let that fear leave you, because I'm even more powerful now because of all the
Absolutely.
women that have come in my life and have
Mm.
lifted me, you know? So yeah, you've got to believe your child. When your child comes to you with something, you've got to believe them. Children are not born like that. They're taught
Yeah,
those things. They're
absolutely.
taught those things, and usually from experience, unfortunately.
Absolutely. Um, Darren Johnson from the Brothership actually, and he's pretty much saying what we've been talking about is this inability to accept truth, unfortunately, is going to continue to make this a difficult battle. It's
Mhm.
here, and we need to accept the reality. And that is exactly it. Like,
Yeah.
we have to put it in the forefront. We have to keep discussing it. We have to keep being engaged. And action, is important, and to make people feel comfortable and safe enough to know that there are resources out there that will help them when they are ready
Ready.
Right.
to accept that a change is needed. Because we can't force anyone. We can only
Right.
be there to support them when their need is there and when they're ready. So to Alyssa's point, meet them where they're at. Man, I just
You seen these comments coming up? Woo!
I know I'm trying to read and talk
I
at the
know.
same time.
Yeah.
And we have to be warrior parents. I agree.
Yeah.
Knowing where suspicious spots are important comes again with education. I mean, I would
Yes.
assume that even our police departments know, right? Because they're
Yes.
aware of where the spots are, where
Right.
trafficking
And
is occurring.
there are programs in place that we work hand in hand with them in to advocate for victims. It's a fantastic program, and we've all been trained in it. And they have stepped up in the last year or two in regard to it. So I'm glad to share that. Look, I know there's some bad people out there, and it is what it is.
Right.
But like I said, to continue these conversations and make sure everyone hears us loud and clear is the way to get through. It's the way
With
to
Absolutely.
all the
change.
bad, we have so much
Such
good as
good.
Oh,
well.
absolutely. Yeah.
And I agree. I mean, there's so much out there, right? I mean, we wake up every morning and listen to the news, and there's how many good stories do you hear?
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's not many, right? I mean, it's unfortunate. It's the world we live in. But again, information is power, and resources is required, and the right people, right place, right time, and just continuing the conversations. We have and to the children that are out there or any teenagers that are listening, even if you feel your parents are not there for you, there are resources out there. They do care about you.
Mhm.
just know that some parents are just overwhelmed in their own situation. They don't even know how to have the conversations.
Right.
They themselves are struggling. Go
If
ahead,
I
Jack.
if I may say, Steph, to that point, it's not that they don't know, it's the generational. If those wasn't
Yeah.
conversations that they had with them, then they
Yeah.
don't know how to have these conversations. So the
Right.
reality is the generational. I mean, we call them the generational curses, but that's what it is. You only can give what you have.
What you
You can't give what you never received. And
Right.
that's
So
why
Jackie,
the village concept. That's
right.
where the
You
village
mentioned you
concept
have
comes
work.
back into it.
Yeah. You mentioned you have workshops. Can you just, give us some detail on that, what that includes?
So usually what I do is when I get a group and we do, well, of course now because of COVID, we're doing virtually, but normally prior to COVID, we would actually get a location and get a group of young adults and do different workshops on whatever's going on in the times. The sex trafficking is a major one, but even just normal stuff like vision boards, just having those candid conversations. You mentioned about the group therapy. When I was in the group homes, that was a major thing I used to do. We used to call it circle up, and we would circle all the girls
Yeah.
together
Yeah.
and have them share their experiences and what they're feeling and talk about whatever they want to talk about. There was nothing off limits. It was like
Right.
whatever they were feeling, a past experience that they may have had, something to that effect. And that just gave an open dialogue. The ability to have open dialogue, and then we would address them. Sometimes it would be hours, and as long as they were comfortable speak
Mhm.
for
Right.
hours,
Right. And it
as
must be
meeting they
safe.
were and what they want to
Yeah.
talk about. So
Yeah. It must be
yes,
safe for them.
for this year, I will be putting out calendar schedules to do different things. I will make that the sistership has it. I will get your information, Jane, as well. Send it to you through Human Resources. I do a lot of work
Thank you.
with a lot of the local groups here in the
Yeah.
community. I also do annual. I do the book bag giveaway. I do the Thanksgiving baskets. I do the Christmas toys for tots. I do a lot of things here just to engage in the community and get that relationship. And then the
Right.
other stuff on the side. So, but I really would like to try to get something with the schools so that we can have something regular done
Right.
to get this
Yeah.
information out.
Like we
Yeah.
don't have a community center, I think
Correct.
I think Dansbury Park does have an area inside that you can use. And I know you can get on a schedule, and for nonprofits, I don't think there's a charge. But so that would be a good, kickoff. But what I wanted to ask Lorna was, are there any future programs that you're thinking of putting out to the community to bring awareness or to offer any workshops in regard to the work that you all do?
So we are building our community outreach. We've been talking about that, and we're starting to lay plans for that. We do go out and meet with law enforcement. We and just to circle back to that for a moment, what we have noticed, and this is because of the pandemic, is these Homeland Security and FBI have pulled back on their sting operations. So there are less survivors being identified, and therefore our stats have been a little low because we don't have a connection right now. And I don't know when that's going to get back to normal.
Yeah.
But we work with law enforcement to educate them and bring awareness. And
Right.
of course, like you mentioned, VAST, Valley Against Sex Trafficking, they also do the community outreach.
Yeah.
And but I know it's been really challenging to get into the schools.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even before COVID, when no
Yeah.
one, like we just keep talking about, no one
Yeah.
wants to talk about it.
Yeah. And it definitely, it needs to be part of the curriculum, I feel.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, I really
I mean,
do feel.
when we were kids, I mean, we'd have, the fire department come in or the police department come in. I remember that from my time, 70s, 80s, I'll just say.
You baby. You're such a baby.
So I'm still a baby. But, I remember my time. I mean, we did have those outreach programs. They used to come to the schools and talk to the
Right.
students,
Right.
about,
Yep.
obviously not human trafficking or things of that nature, but, we did have people that would come to the school and have conversations. I don't see, I mean, granted, I have 11 nieces and nephews. They're stair steps, 9 years
Yeah.
old, 9 years and 20 up to 23. But you know, I don't hear about these being done anymore, regardless of pre or post pandemic, right? Pre or current stage.
Right.
So I agree. I don't know why it's so difficult to get into this. I don't know if it's because they just feel it's a topic that is, you know, again, taboo, or they don't want to scare kids, or, you know,
Well,
they don't, maybe the parents don't want that.
I was going to say, I think you get a lot of pushback from the parents.
Yeah.
I really do. I mean, like I said, I go to a lot of the
Absolutely.
school board meetings, and there is a lot of pushback on a lot of vital subjects that should be certainly discussed in the school system. So
Absolutely.
you have a lot of pushback from certain parents that
Mm.
just don't want it.
I think that even having like a talk about who safe people are and what healthy like boundaries are, like I think once women who even come to like our, the program, they don't know any of these things of safe people, safe, healthy people who like,
It's true.
like no one's taught that. And then who does it become like the most unhealthy
Done
people?
already.
Right.
You made a good point. I like that
Yeah,
a little
very
bit.
good point. Yeah.
We don't want it to be a scary topic, of maybe you just kind of flip it to what's good look like, right?
Right.
Versus, you know, be aware of, you know, the boogeyman, you know, just
Exactly.
what does good look like? Because when you talk about it more of in a positive manner, then you take away that element of, you know, this is just a bad conversation, and you
Right.
know, the boogeyman's coming or whatever have you. So I like that. That's a great
You
perspective.
know, CBS did a bit of a little bit of a program, and they took one Savannah Guthrie. No, it wasn't Savannah Guthrie. I'm trying to think of who the journalist was, but anyway, they went in her neighborhood with a ice cream truck, and the first ice cream truck, her own children came out, and the guy selling the ice cream was real ugly looking, and didn't dress well. The kids would not go near the truck. The next truck that came in was selling pretzels or whatever. So he came out all dressed up and everything, and the kids ran to the truck. He was the predator. My point is, the predator doesn't always look bad,
Exactly.
right? And
Very good point.
haven't we taught our younger generations, oh, don't go near them. Look how they look, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
When in fact, they can be wearing a $500 suit and $300 shoes, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a
I
very
mean,
good,
think
very
about
good
it.
analysis.
Think about it.
Yeah.
You know, I've watched HBO specials on, you know, back in the day, you know, Pimp Alley and whatever have you, and
Yeah.
you know, of course they've got the nice clothes, the suits, looking all charming, charming. But they're the ones that are, you know, they're making money off of, you know, the women that they're, you know, putting on the street.
Yeah.
And not for nothing. I mean, you know, let's keep it real. We do that here on the Sistahship. You know, we've got people in political positions. We've got people in all type of areas of, you know, who we hold in high regard,
Privilege.
that are actually,
Yep.
you know, managing through this and run these, or are part of these trafficking and drug and trafficking, you know, human trafficking scenarios. Once again, I go back to say, there wouldn't be that much money in that industry if somebody at the top who wants this to continue and funnel the money, it wouldn't be this way if that was the case. Okay. And then again, this is a global issue, not just the US. So just imagine there's definitely other people at the top that are involved in this.
Yes.
So, but I'm going to throw it out there for the school, anyone from the school system that is watching us, Board of Educators, anyone that is law enforcement, anyone that is part of any political affiliation in the state of Pennsylvania, anyone who is watching or is listening in, we need your help to continue to allow or give us the resources or the ability to get into these schools, into programs, create programs, and continue to have these conversations. We cannot just not have them because we're afraid of talking about them, or because it's going to hurt somebody's pocket. I don't care. We don't care.
We don't care.
We are about people.
Yep.
We are not about this.
We're
Okay?
about the human race.
We are
Yeah.
about the human race. And I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes here to kind of, we have about 5 minutes to close out. So with that said, Jackie, any last thoughts, ideas or thoughts, or where you think we should be going forward with this?
Basically, you just clarified it, Steph. We need to just get the information out there. Whatever platform that we can, that's available to us, to get the information out there, to have these conversations with parents, children's, school boards, whomever will listen to us, political allies, whomever will listen, to give us the ability and the platforms to share this information. And as I leave, I would like to say, continue doing what you're doing. Listen, you're doing an amazing job with yourself as well as helping others. And I share with my youth that I leave these 3 words with you. You have to feel what you're going through so that you can so you can start your healing process. And that's what's going to help you deal. So I leave that with you, those 3 words. And it was a pleasure. I thank all of you for your time. This was a very good discussion, and we just have to keep doing the work, regardless of the pushback, regardless of the non-support. We just have to keep doing the work. Somebody will hear us.
Yes.
Yes.
And a lot of people are hearing us now. Let's a lot of people are hearing us now. We're making a difference, even if it's one person that's listening. This will continue to repeat to play, so a lot more people will hear us. Lorna, any last minute thoughts?
Well, just to piggyback on what you both have already said, we need to continue to have the conversations, to be loud, to be respectfully forceful, and to get people's attention.
Yes.
To get into these places that we're not in, and which is most of them, but to convince people that this is happening. I know, like, I have a background in domestic violence, and I believe we're talking more about domestic violence than we have in the past. I mean, not enough. I'm not nearly enough, right? But I'd like to see that change for sex trafficking too.
Yes.
You know, like it's cloaked in secrecy, it's cloaked in silence, and we need to bust out. You know, just break that glass ceiling.
Well said. Well
let
said.
our voices be
Excellent.
Good job.
I love that. I love that.
Excellent.
Excellent. Thank you, Lorna. I love that. Alyssa, any last words?
I agree.
Yay!
She's like,
I don't. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
We thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You are a beacon of hope.
You are a warrior for sure.
Yes. Thank you so much. You are definitely a beacon of hope of anybody who's listening in. And I hope that with this program today, this topic today, that there are those out there that are listening and hearing, and in their own time will reach out for the services that they need to get out of this human trafficking space that they're trapped in right now. Jane, Miss Spicy. I love her. We love Miss Jane.
Awesome.
Thank you, Jane, so much.
Thank you all. Thank all of you. I do. I thank you all. I'm privileged to sit on this forum with you today. Really. Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that said, this is the close of the Sistahship Network, Human Trafficking. I am not for sale. And when I mean for sale, it's not just monetary. So let's be clear. It's not just about money. It's about your soul, about who you are, and everything that people can manipulate, mind, body, and soul. So with that said, I love everyone. Thank you again for joining the Sistahship. We are here every Sunday at 2 p.m.
We on a sister ship. Come with us, we on a sister ship. Yeah, we on a sister ship. Roll with us, we on a sister ship.
Sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. Sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. Sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. Sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it.
We're my sisters, we got this, sisters. You roll with me and I'll roll with ya. We're my sisters, we got this, sisters. You roll with me and I'll roll with ya. Substance, sis, you know we on a mission, no games. Help each other get over some things, build strength, bring change. Cause we've been through the rain, now it's time to shine like bling. Let's talk about life skills. We building up our quality to right wills. We rolling out of poverty, love heals. So we become the prodigy of how a sistership could be a really hot commodity. Stand together, we united, hold hands, support each other dreams and our plans, doing everything we can. Just to show we understand the power of a friendship, fam. Live life on purpose, together we learn it. Yeah, let's talk, we don't wanna see you hurt. And we here for each other, no matter the color, networking. That's for sure and for certain. Come on,
Yeah, we on a sister ship. Come with us, we on a sister ship. Yeah, we on a sister ship. Roll with us, we on a sister ship.
we're my sisters, we got this, sisters. You roll with me and I'll roll with ya. We're my sisters, we got this, sisters. You roll with me and I'll roll with ya.
Sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. Sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. Sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. Sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it.